I'm on my way into the middle of a forest to explore what appears to be a very interesting place that controlled the Kriegsmarine, which is the German Navy, especially the U-boat flotilla. However, this complex is nowhere near the oceans. This place is called Lager Korralle, or to me and you, Camp Korralle. But more about this later on. My first port of call is the Luftschutzbunker, or air raid shelter. Just like the Lagerzimmerbunker, or the Situation Room Bunker of the Lager Koralle, this was built as a Hochbunker, or high bunker. The wall of its floors were located above ground. It was constructed to keep around 750 people safe during air raids, though its location is somewhat of a mystery as it wasn't constructed centrally but more off to the southern edge of the Lager Koralle, which is a couple hundred metres away. All original plans had been destroyed during the war, and apparently there was not one single Hochbunker built by the Germans that had the same design. So it's hard to say exactly what the original layout of this air raid shelter was. Apparently it had 3 above ground floors and 2 entrances, one to the east and one to the west. The entrances had pressure doors and were constructed in such a way that the pressure of an exploding bomb would break up if it hit the lock or the corridors. Like the Lagerzimmerbunker, the Luftschutzbunker was demolished around the mid to late 1945, using leftover munitions for at least one of these detonations. The entrances survived the detonations relatively unscathed, but the main core of the bunker was completely destroyed. The ceiling burst into multiple sections and was essentially scattered around the bunker. The damage to the interior was so great that it's impossible to even guess what the interior layout of this bunker originally looked like. Now let's move on to the main complex.
What you see behind me is what's left of Lager Koralle. Korralle is Camp Korralle, if you want to class it as that. It was the Navy's facility between 1943 and 1945, just slightly outside of Berlin, in a place called Bernau. I think it's pronounced like that. I'll put the stuff underneath so you can read it yourself. Before we have a look round and what's left, I'll give you some history about it. Before the Nazis came into power, this area around here used to have the Institute of Hope Valley, which is where people were mentally or physically disabled. 1933, the Nazis came to power and cleaned this place out completely. We're just outside a place called Lobertal. We're about 2 kilometres away, just over a mile from where this place is. Now this was supposedly a naval news school, but obviously it got turned into something completely different, and all work on this started in 1939. On the 30th of January 1943, because of the constant bombing of Berlin, it was safer to move the naval base where they run the Navy and obviously the submarines to this place here. This place was actually initiated by Gross Admiral Erich Raeder. Eventually Raeder was replaced by Gross Admiral Karl Donitz, because Hitler had realised what a good job he was doing regarding the U-boats. Initially the Kriegsmarine were looking at a place to set up their camp in a place called Bodensee, but unfortunately that was claimed by somebody else. And that was the Minister of Propaganda, Joseph Goebbels. When this place was set up, all communication from the submarines, the U-boats, came directly to this centre. There was quite a lot of buildings built around this area. Mess rooms, telecommunications centres, flak towers, or flak gun positions you should say, bunkers above and below ground. And it was just designed to try and probably make life a little bit easier for these guys who worked here. Also, there was some apparently there were some of these bunkers that used to exist. They were actually connected to each other by an underground passageway. This place was very important for the U-boat flotilla, because the U-boats were one of the things that Churchill was actually scared of, because he could have starved our country out of the war. They reckon they sunk over 2,070 ships in the time that these U-boats were attacking British Allied shipping, and that was the longest campaign of the war, from 1939, 3rd of September, up until around about the 8th of May 1945. Looks like the anti-aircraft gun position on top of there. They reckon it added to the strength of this this bunker. They reckon if that wasn't added on with all the extra concrete, then it was more susceptible to Allied bombing than without it. In June of 1939, a group of 20 technicians set out round this area of Bernau, a 20-kilometre radius. The idea was they had radio communications trucks, and the idea is to try and figure out where's the best place to put something like this for the best communication possible. And it looks like they chose this place. Now, all the other sections of the Wehrmacht, which was the army, and the Air Force, had their own high command bunkers. The Luftwaffe was in Potsdam, and the army had theirs based in a place called Wunsdorf. Now, initially, the Kriegsmarine ran all their operations from Wilhelmshaven, but when France was occupied, they moved everything to a place called Lorient, where they built some big U-boat pens. Dönitz was actually based in Lorient, and eventually he moved himself to here. Now, any communications received here were sent back out through remote control stations about 20 kilometres away, which is about 12 miles, something like that. And they're done by wire. The reason that is because if they tried to send communications out here, it's possible they could interfere with the communications that are coming in. So the easiest way is come in one way, go out another way. That have then been decrypted or encrypted with different machines, like, for instance, the Enigma, or they've done the Lorenz. But unbeknownst to the Germans, that would actually broken both systems. By the end of 1942, this place was up and running. It had various things actually here to make it run smooth. It had a Hochline bunker, which is a high bunker. It had a situation room bunker and a communications bunker. Barracks for military personnel. Barracks for ladies' naval auxiliaries. An office casino called Villa Donetsk. Service buildings. Various offices. And several fire control ponds. At its peak, it had over 1,000 personnel working here. The situation bunker had 70 personnel working there. The radio receiving room had 130 people working there. There was a air raid shelter that could hold up to 750 people. The Luftwaffe would fly regular flights over this area just to see how good the camouflage was, and then report back. The main things they did see was they could see tracks between the bunkers, even if they couldn't see the bunkers. So they knew that the Allies, if they saw anything like that, any roads running to it, any paths running somewhere that they didn't look as though they should be running, they would bomb the hell out of it. On the 17th of April 1945, an air raid hit this place here. Probably didn't do much damage because the thickness of this concrete is really thick. By the 21st of April, the Soviets had already arrived here. Now, the damage you see here would have been done by the Soviets. They'd have stripped all the air out of everything that was necessary. They'd have sent it back over to Russia to have it stripped down, have a look at what caused it, how it worked and stuff like that, so they could make their own, really. Now, you look at the state of the concrete, look at that. It's taking some dynamite to blow this place up. It's absolutely, completely destroyed, but it must have taken a lot to destroy this place. Hitler had a scorched earth policy. In other words, to destroy everything so it wouldn't come in Allies' hands, so they couldn't use it. Apparently, the soldiers here tried to throw grenades into the diesel room to destroy them, but what's a grenade going to do? It's a personnel type of mine, that is. Nothing like they've done here, where it's completely destroyed. And on top of this bunker, they had an anti-aircraft bunker put on top, of an emplacement, an open emplacement actually. And I've got a feeling it's that. The reason is because without that top, I think that's the top there, going up there. Below looks thick, but apparently if a tall boy hit this place, he'd have destroyed it. Now, tall boys, a great big, I think 10,000 pound bombs, earthquake bombs they are. And what they do is they penetrate into the earth and then blow up. In other words, try to destroy the foundations of these type of buildings. But this extra concrete now, it'd have been less a chance of anything getting through that. Well, this is the anti-aircraft open position. There's the great big centre where the gun would have fitted on there. And because this was put on top, it would have given extra strength below for the bunker. They reckon that it wasn't strong enough without 3 or 4 metres of concrete. That part there is where they would have stored the ammunition. There's one of the outer buildings. Not sure what it was used for. Now I understand this brickwork here, I think the Russians actually put that here when they were using it for their own purposes. Now there's the other anti-aircraft positioning. You can see the spigot there, that's where the gun would have sat. And you can see the amount of damage it's done when they blew it up. That actually looks like an observation post, to be honest with you. Nothing left, as you can see. Completely and utterly destroyed. That's from the other side. Same gap really. Just that this is a bit smaller, I can't get underneath it. On the 1st of May 1945, shortly after Hitler's death, Karl Dönitz became the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces for Germany. On the 7th of May 1945, he asked Alfred Jodl, who was the Supreme Commander of the Wehrmacht, if I remember rightly, to sign the unconditional surrender of Germany in a place called Reims in France. Dönitz did remain commander of the Flensburg government, as they called it at the time, and on the 23rd of May 1945 it was dissolved, and that was the end of the Third Reich.